my perspective is don't highlight it. And if you look at those 3 games, they were crippled from an injury perspective in 2 of the 3 that they lost. And the one time they were healthy, they boat raced them down there.
Johnny Mac, let's get into some Eagles topics. William, thanks for the super chat. Thanks, everybody, for the super chat today. John, I want to start with some updates and just kind of get some clarity. I don't know what you've heard so far. I know you spoke with Nick yesterday, but there's rumors swirling. Somebody from 6ABC, I think it was Jason Dumas, I think it was him, tweeted out that both Jakorian Bennett and Adoree Jackson are dealing with an injury. Is it Kelee Ringo time, John? What do you know about the update on these injured players? I haven't heard much, but I did see that report, and it's not like he's, some guy in relative obscurity. He does work for 6ABC. So I just didn't know what the update was or if there's any truth to that. Is it Kelee Ringo time, John? What do you think?
Well, Adoree's hurt. I mean, Adoree left the game.
Right. He got hurt in the
injury. Game. Yeah. Now, I talked to him after the game. He thought he was going to be okay. But again, players are not doctors. I said the same thing about Lane Johnson.
Yeah, right.
Sometimes they, so groin injuries are tough for cornerbacks. So wouldn't surprise me at all if he was unable to play, to be honest. Jakorian, he evidently got hurt on the final play on the Jordan Davis, walk-off. So a little bit more uncertainty there, and obviously if he can't go, then yeah, you're down to Kelee Ringo, and maybe that's a silver lining type thing. Who knows? Maybe he got to sit, maybe he got to get away from it, maybe he settles down from a competent standpoint. Maybe he goes out there and play. I would argue the play hasn't been that great at that position anyway. So I don't expect it, but Vic has a way of masking deficiencies probably better than anybody else. So I mean, Adoree wasn't playing that well, to be honest, and Jakorian was playing worse than Adoree, to be honest, when he did get his few opportunities. Yeah. So I wouldn't panic. They're probably going to be without Mike Evans. Like, that's a bigger deal than the Eagles losing potentially Adoree Jackson and Jakorian Bennett. But yeah, Kelee Ringo would have to step up, no doubt about it. And he didn't have a great summer, so I get why people would be concerned, but I don't think there's too many fans of this show that were bragging about the play of Adoree Jackson.
No, that's what I mean. I think honestly fans have shifted, and I can't speak for everybody. I can only speak for myself, but I think there's almost a sense of, like, I'd almost rather put Ringo out there and see what he's made of, because you already know what Adoree is. Like, he's not going to change, and he hasn't been great. So if there's not that much further to come down, hey, maybe you're getting some upside. Maybe you can unlock some of the upside in Ringo. I don't know. I think there's at least some ways to look at it that could be positive.
And also, don't sleep on Mac McWilliams. Maybe they throw him in there, and maybe there's some youth and some juice and athleticism. So there's some different ways they can go. On the practice squad, they have Ambry Thomas, who's third-round San Francisco pick. So no surprise that he was one back in the day. I believe he was San Francisco. I have to double check that. Yeah, third round 2021 San Francisco. Bounced around a bit. Was a good college player in Michigan. So he would be the elevation from the practice squad if you're going to go that route, because the only other corner they have is Perry Nickerson, who's more of just a slot guy. And then you could go out of the box and play Cooper outside more. They played a lot of base against the Rams.
Yeah.
So there was more Sidney Brown playing safety than probably people thought they were going to see, and more Cooper playing outside, because that's what happens when they're in the base. So they could play more of that, not having Mike Evans. I doubt it, because
why do they go to Sidney Brown and base there? Like, do they just like his style for that?
I think they just want to keep him involved.
I don't know why, honestly. I really don't.
Well, I think they think more of him than.
I don't think he's a bad player. I think there's I think you get more out of getting Makuba those reps. But whatever, it is what it is. I'm not
Well,
gonna
I do think they complement each other in that the strength of Sydney is going downhill, physical,
right.
and Makuba's strength is coverage, and so it makes sense when you spread the field in 11, and the Bucks are probably still going to spread the field, so you'll see Makuba much more than Sydney, but he does bring a physical presence that Makuba doesn't have, and obviously Makuba's a better coverage player, which is why he plays more.
Yeah, no. So we'll see. We'll see what ends up happening with that. Going to be interesting to see what what it looks like with Ringo out there, how they shift. I don't think Cooper going to the outside's an option, honestly. But we'll see what they end up doing with it. Should be good to see that, John. I do have some things I want to talk about coming off of that game on Sunday. We're going to get ready to turn the page at the end of today's show. We'll start to look toward that Eagles-Bucks game this weekend, a Week 4 matchup in Tampa Bay. I don't think the weather is supposed to be too crazy, John, which is you don't get that often in September.
And they're leaving early, which, by the way.
So Jeff was right about that. They are leaving early.
So hat tip to Jeff, who probably got that from Oscar. Oscar Budishin.
Yeah, we should get Oscar back on. We had him on this summer.
Well, we'll get him on after the Phillies are done. Hopefully, the Phillies are done. I shouldn't say.
I don't know, man.
Traffic wise, I'm only like I have nothing against the Phillies, but I don't want traffic in South Philly. So, but he's busy with his Phillies duties. But after that wraps up, we'll definitely get him back on. But as far as move, like no offense, but what all right, you're leaving. They're still practicing here Friday, and they're going to leave after practice, so they're going to leave Friday night. So they're going down to Tampa a day early, and they're going to have to walk through down in Tampa, which is, typically they have it here and then fly out for a road game. So that's the only difference from a perspective. And it's like, what, so you're getting to Tampa a day early, and you're going to have a walkthrough wherever they're going to have the walkthrough, wherever they set it up, which I don't know. But really, that's going to get you acclimated to the heat?
Yeah, but I don't get. Well, let me just play devil's advocate. The Eagles are 0-3 in Tampa, right? In their last 3 games with Nick Sirianni.
I believe I haven't looked. They won one game down there early, and they really won it pretty handily. But they're 1-3 or 1-4, but I don't have it.
So it's maybe the one area where Nick and Jalen haven't quite 1-2. I think Dank's in the last 3, but the coach is trying to do something different to all right. It hasn't worked in the past what we've done. I don't know.
Well, that's fine from that perspective, but understand that's all it is. And my perspective is don't highlight it. And if you look at those 3 games, they were crippled offensively. They were crippled from an injury perspective in 2 of the 3 that they lost. And the one time they were healthy, they boat raced them down there. Like, so much of football, really. And I shouldn't give the circumstance. When you talk about the last game and everybody's like, oh, why did they change? Oh, they figured it out. They ran the same plays. They were just more effective. So much of football is circumstance. It really is. And the fact that why did they throw the ball? Well, they threw the ball because they were down 19 points. That's why they threw the ball. Then you have the other aspect of the Rams, and again, when everybody forgets the other team on the field. So the Rams are playing differently because they feel good after the big burst sack and the touchdown. They think the game's over. So they start laying up. They don't want to give up the big plays. So they play a different style. And then you see this every week. Take the Eagles out of the equation. You see it how can a team play so good? And then all of a sudden, here comes the other team roaring back, and they figured it out. A lot of times, it's just the human nature aspect of it. So much of football is circumstance. I would argue the Eagles' struggles in Tampa have more to do, not to say they handled the heat well, because they didn't, But I would say it has more to do with the fact that they were crippled and didn't have AJ and Devontae and Lane
Right. Then
Johnson.
the weather and arriving
Yeah.
on Saturday. That makes sense.
So, and I don't want to highlight that and say, oh, remember when we were played so shitty because it was so. But I go back to when they had those joint. It was hilarious when they had those joint practices. I brought this up to Ed Kratz yesterday in Miami. It was so brutally hot. I mean, it was. They got destroyed in the joint practice. They only had one because there was some kind of illness going around the Dolphins building, and they canceled the second one. But they got destroyed in that practice, and it was hilarious because the Dolphins have this brand new facility. It's gorgeous, by the way, and again, it's brutal. It is I mean, it is South Florida heat and humidity at its worst. And what do the Dolphins do? They're stretching in their air-conditioned indoor facility.
Yeah.
And 2 minutes before practice, they trot out as fresh as a daisy. And the Eagles have been doing all their pre-practice stuff outside in this soup, and they just got destroyed.
Yeah.
And I'm like, they're the ones who do it all the time, and they want to stay in the sweet air conditioning for as long as possible. Like,
right. So why are you trying to acclimate it? Like,
Yeah.
you're not going to acclimate. It's
You're
like,
not gonna
even if you were
acclimate.
there, you would try and stay out of it. Yeah, I
Yeah.
guess that makes sense. That's a good perspective.
You're
say-
not even, and you, not to mention the fact you can't acclimate in 24 hours. Come on. Rare that I disagree with the Eagles, and I think it's more of what you just said. Well, why not? It hasn't worked, so why not try something else?
Right.
Well, they know they didn't have their full allotments, and I think more of it has to do, and some of it, Todd Bowles tends to have their number from a defensive perspective. So I would focus more on handling what Todd Bowles brings and than worrying about the heat. But that's me. Maybe it worked. And by the way, if it works, everybody will say, oh, they acclimated to the heat. I'm picking them to win the game, and I'm picking them to win the game. And I'm already telling people, because I'm not picking them to lose a game till they actually lose a game. I'm picking them to win the football game because they're the better team. Not because of the heat.
Yeah.
And AJ is going to play, and Lane, well, we'll see with Lane. I shouldn't use him as an example because he did get hurt. So I'm not 100%, but he thinks he's going to play. Devontae's going to play. Mike Evans isn't going to play. Yeah, give me the Eagles.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit. What I don't even need the weather forecast. Give me the Eagles.
It's supposed to be 88. Speaking of the weather forecast, but man, they had to make a game in Tampa in September, and then to top it off, they had to make it at 1 p.m. So it's like middle of the day, like peak heat. John, am I fine? Am I wrong to be nervous about Lane Johnson? I neck and back, man. They're the two things I hate. Like, they just make me nervous, because they linger. They can mess people up. I know how it throws people off their game. I've seen somebody deal with a back injury in my life, and I'm just like, damn. It just constantly lingers. Now, I know it's different. I know these guys are getting the top medical attention and, all throughout, but I'm a little nervous about Lane. I can't lie. I don't like neck stingers, man, for a 35-year-old player.
Well, it happens all the time in football. I mean, it isn't. Look, like I said, after the game, he seemed to think he was fine. He's not a doctor, though. And sometimes it's as simple as you go to, you still got the adrenaline going. You go to bed and you go, shit, this doesn't feel good.
Right.
So by no means am I saying don't pay attention, because that's a big storyline in the week going up to the game. And we'll get a better indication on Wednesday, because obviously the Eagles are the Eagles and they hate to give any information. But he felt good after the game, and that's positive. Usually when there's something significant, the players are with the medical staff or getting MRIs or x-rays, and they're not talking to us. And he didn't talk like he usually did, but, he's walking by and he seemed fine and said stinger and all that stuff. And thinks he's going to be fine. So,
yeah, we'll see. I hope he is all good. Lane Johnson, obviously.
Oh yeah, if they lose him, to your point, I mean, that's history has already proven they are not nearly as good when Lane is not on the field. And Nick called him the best player ever coached after that game. Now, he said the same thing about A.J. Brown. He said the same thing about Saquon, I think, at points. But so, I mean, it is what it is. But he's one of those guys. There's no doubt about it. He's a future Hall of Famer. I don't even say potential anymore. He's a future Hall of Famer. He's one of the best right tackles that ever lived. So if you lose a player like that for whether it's a week or 2 weeks or a longer period, which would be a catastrophe, it's going to be an issue. So something to keep an eye on, definitely.
Yeah, no doubt about it. We'll see how that shakes out. Game coming up this weekend, week number 4. Eagles are 3-0, everybody. And John pointed it out already. This is a tough part of the schedule, and they've squeaked by 3-0. And I think they're in a good position to beat this Bucs team. This Bucs team is pretty banged up now. I think they're going to get back Tristan Wirfs. I think I saw that, and Chris Godwin, but Mike Evans is hurt, and there is still a couple other offensive linemen that are hurt as well. So